Hey folks, I'm Brendan, and you're watching the Overqualified Henchman. I'm of an age to have played Pokémon Blue when it first came out, on the Game Boy Pocket with that sweet translucent casing. Over the years I've been on my fair share of Pokémon journeys, so you can believe that when Sun and Moon came out, I was there on launch day to pick up a copy. What I wasn't expecting was for this version of the game to pull me more into the world and the narrative than I ever remembered from a previous generation. I gave it some thought and realized that it came down to a few specific storytelling choices. Let's talk about why. Let's start by talking about setting. Each generation of Pokemon has introduced us to a new region in the Pokemon world, and it's fairly common knowledge that these are all based on real-world locations. The first 4 regions are all based on different parts of Japan, understandably, but Pokemon Black and White gave us Unova, which is based on New York City, mainly Manhattan, and some parts of New Jersey. You can see it in the bridges, the subway system, but apart from those landmarks, at least to me, it didn't feel that different from what had come before. Now, Pokemon X and Y take place in Kalos, which is based on northern metropolitan France. And again, you have the landmarks. There's stand-ins for the Eiffel Tower, for the Louvre, but there's a little more going on than that. There are references to French words and French foods worked in. Everywhere you go, you'll find cafes and fashion boutiques. The champion of the Pokemon League there is also a famous fashion model. Little touches that made it feel like this was a different country than you'd seen in previous games, even if a lot of it was fairly surface level. Pokemon Sun and Moon, however, take place in Alola, an island chain based on Hawaii. And you can tell right off the bat that this is going to be something significantly different when you find out that Alola doesn't have Pokemon gyms, which is crazy, because that's what you do in a Pokemon game. You go to 8 gyms, you earn 8 badges. That's the game. But instead, in Alola, they have a tradition called the Island Trial. Each island has one or more trial captains who set challenges for trainers. Once you've beaten all of the challenges on an island, you fight that island's kahuna. Those challenges might involve solving a puzzle or beating a series of trainers, which if you think about it, is what you did in a gym anyway. So mechanically, it's maybe not that big a departure, but what matters is the presentation. The Island Trial is presented as a way for young trainers to get out and see all of the islands, to learn about their region's culture and history. It's a rite of passage. Trainers are given a little charm to put on their backpack so everybody knows they're on the trial. Instead of just trying to push through whatever's keeping you from the next gym, in this case, it's the journey that's positioned as mattering. This is reinforced mechanically. Unlike previous generations, individual patches of tall grass on the same route can have different Pokemon, and there are even side areas that you don't need to go through to progress the plot, encouraging you to explore rather than just making a beeline. The game's also pretty generous about giving out free items, encouraging you to talk to every NPC you run into, and their dialogue helps build the world. Another big factor is a sense of tradition and history. Now, we've seen this in Pokemon games before. Gold and Silver let you travel back to Kanto a few years after the original games took place and see what had changed. Black and White 2 did a similar thing, but Sun and Moon are clever enough to give you that same feeling of history on the first visit. The trial captains are trainers who went through the island trial themselves, which gives them a context that gym leaders typically didn't have. Then there's a contrast between old and new. Kahunas are made out to be respected cultural leaders whose words carry a lot of weight. But you also run into a city hall where a couple is filling out the paperwork for a marriage license. You'll visit a ranch where Pokemon are being raised to be ridden, like horses, but you'll also see lots of cars and trucks everywhere. There are tourist bureaus and plenty of sightseers everywhere, including some familiar faces from previous generations. Alola isn't stuck in the past, but it also hasn't let go of its traditions, and it manages to merge the old and the new in a way that makes for a more believable setting. Ultimately, though, it's still a game about raising fantastical creatures to battle. Setting aside the tired jokes about dogfighting, we've always been told in-universe that Pokemon relish the chance to train and get stronger. At the same time, we've also been told that trainers who treat their Pokemon as weapons or a means to an end are despicable. One of the major plots in Sun and Moon revolves around the question of how far can you go in the quest to get stronger? And is it better or worse to keep a Pokemon safe and protected, even against its wishes? X and Y introduced Pokemon Me, a system where you could groom your Pokemon, feed them, basically treating them like a virtual pet. Doing so kept the Pokemon happy, which conferred some minor benefits during battle, but mainly it was a novelty. Most people I know used Pokemon Me a couple of times, went, "Oh, that's cute," and then moved on with the rest of the game. Sun and Moon renamed that Pokemon Restore, and it's basically the same thing, with a couple of key differences. Now, instead of being something tucked away in the menus, after a tough fight, you'll actually be prompted to enter Pokemon Restore. Based on how the battle went, you'll be asked to do different things. If they used a physical attack and rolled around on the ground, you might have to brush mats out of their fur. If they got hit with a water attack, you might have to dry them off with a blow dryer. And if they were afflicted by a status condition like poison or a burn, you can actually remove it by caring for them without using any items. This mirrors what we've always seen in the cartoons and movies, with trainers taking care of and encouraging their Pokemon after a fight. And by making it something that you're prompted to do periodically, it it becomes a habit. And as you use Pokemon Restore enough and your Pokemon becomes happier, those extra critical hits and evades in battle really start to add up. Your Pokemon repays your attention by fighting even harder, and it starts to feel like an actual partnership. It's really interesting to see how just small tweaks to the Pokemon game formula can make such a big impact on the experience. Let me know in the comments which region of the Pokemon world is your favorite, and if you picked up Sun or Moon. Obviously Sun was the correct choice because Ice Vulpix is a gift and we are not worthy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, remember to catch 'em all and keep on henching. Seriously though, that guy riding the Stoutland who keeps blocking the road, that guy's a jerk.